Hi guys, today's video is brought to you with a soundtrack of the neighbours upstairs curiously moving objects and moving things around. They seem to have been doing it for 2 or 3 days, not at all annoying. Anyway, what I'd like to talk to you about today is how language learning has changed with the advance of technology in quite a short space of time too. Some of my early language learning experiences on the continent as part of full immersion came just over a decade ago. I want to look particularly at the way I used to learn languages and the way in which you can now learn languages from anywhere with the power of the smartphone. So let's start with where I was just over a decade ago, 2009, 2010. I was living in Avignon in the south of France, and I'm a big believer that you can learn a lot of language by reading books and reading fiction in particular. It might seem counterintuitive, but actually fiction is a terrific source of vocabulary. You encounter all sorts of rich and wonderful adjectives, and clearly because it's fiction, then you have some rather bizarre and unrealistic and fantastic situations and circumstances described. So when I was living in Avignon, I used to procure reading material by going to a weekly flea market where I could buy second-hand paperbacks for €1 a go. I remember buying lots of Agatha Christie books, so books that had been originally written in English, albeit translated very well into French, and I would read them. Books like The Murder of Roger Ackroyd, for instance. Anyway, so that's how I used to learn languages with reading material. Now all I need is my Kindle. I can buy foreign language titles and I can install the dictionaries. So I have a Portuguese-English dictionary, I have an Italian-English dictionary, and I have a French-English dictionary. And with the click of the screen, all I have to do is put my finger on the word I don't know, and it gives me a whole host of options, and then based on the context I can figure out what that is. I can even highlight the word and then save it and go back and check those in due course. So clearly that has been a real game changer. So that's the first thing with regards to reading material and then consequently vocabulary. Second thing is language practice itself, conversation, finding those possible encounters where you can really start to practice your language skills. Traditionally, it was a case of either making friends in the country where you were living, or perhaps going to some formal language exchanges, maybe formal or even informal. You could go to a bar and talk to people that had all gathered for the same specific goal, namely a language exchange. So perhaps I would go and try and practice my Portuguese, and in return my language partner might want to practice their English. So it might be half an hour of English and half an hour of Portuguese, sort of payment in kind from that perspective. Now on the internet you can find language partners at the click of a button. You simply go on a website, you can find them. Sometimes you can pay for conversation, or alternatively you can do it free. As I said, a payment in kind. You give half an hour of English and in return you get half an hour of French, of Dutch, German, whatever it may be. I'm a particular fan of the website italki, which I use not only as a student, particularly getting a lot of conversational practice in French and Portuguese, languages that I speak less on a day-to-day level because I'm here in Italy, and there are my lovely neighbours again making a hell of a lot of noise. Fantastic. And then also I teach occasionally on italki. Sometimes I give some English classes. That gives me credits that then I can use in return to practice my Portuguese, or French in this case. And in fact I'll do a review of italki because I found the website particularly interesting and very user-friendly, although as with everything there are certain pros and cons. So that's the second point then when it comes to conversation practice and really making sure you get your reps in with regards to learning a language. The third thing, and it's something which is brought up consistently, is the idea of real language, so particularly television and films, something which traditionally wasn't necessarily easy to procure. Moving abroad obviously opened up the whole host of possibilities with regards to just turning on the TV, and I used to sit there for hours watching all sorts of absolute rubbish, but it was particularly good for language learning. I used to watch the equivalent of Wheel of Fortune, believe it or not, in Italian. I'm not sure I do that now, but at the time it was a case of turn on the TV and you could be there for an hour or two at a time. Some passive learning, absorbing a lot of different vocabulary. It's a very visual medium, clearly television, so it doesn't require too much concentration. Now, of course, you have the proliferation of streaming apps. You've got Netflix, Amazon Prime, Disney, and with those you can obviously change the language, so you can have dubbed content, you can put subtitles in. These have clearly facilitated the whole process, particularly with Netflix and a lot of different foreign language series that there are available. You can watch police drama, crime thrillers in French, in Portuguese. You can watch documentaries. That really is a game changer. And the final point that I'd like to mention is listening skills. So in the past, it might have been a bit tricky to find listening material unless you're in the country. Full immersion could be an opportunity there. You turn on the radio in the same way you turn on the TV. But the problem with the radio is you're at the mercy of what the programmer has decided to schedule at that moment in time. Also, finding listening comprehension exercises, graded content wasn't necessarily always the easiest thing to do. These days, we have podcasts. You can literally look for any subject, pretty much find a podcast on that subject. You can go back, you can go forward, you can pause, you can even slow down how you listen to the audio as well, which makes things particularly useful, I have to say. And you've got DAB, digital radio, it's not just the podcast. So there are four reasons, really four factors that have changed with the advent of technology and the advance of technology over the years. Four ways in which my language learning experience has changed. The joys of the smartphone if used properly, because otherwise you can occasionally become a slave to this, and it can be ultimately the thing that enables you to procrastinate and not achieve your language goals. I'd like to hear how technology has changed your language learning experience. Let me know your thoughts. Cheers, guys.